So 100% of people, why do you listen to music? I like the way it makes me feel. If you then go and ask people, hey, the last time you were anxious, angry, depressed, what'd you do to feel better? Only between 10 and 30% avail themselves of that tool. Music is like a little jolt that can push you in your desired direction. There's a strong push for maximizing positivity and minimizing negativity at all costs. And in fact, Chris, if you experience negative emotions at times, this is not so good. That's not actually true. We evolved the ability to experience negative emotions for a reason. When they're experienced in the right proportions, they're actually really helpful. Yeah. They provide us with information.
Whoop, there it is. Come on, let's get that in there.
We often, especially around New Year's, we say, we're gonna change all these things about our lives. We're gonna be more in control, less anxiety, less anger, but we falter. And there are lots of reasons why. Whoop is a technology that anyone can use to make emotion regulation automatic.
Oh, Jezra, anyone for you? Anyone? All right, anyone for a genius? Fastest, you up for a genius now?
I think I probably am, to be honest.
Fill your boots.
Our next guest is an experimental psychologist, neuroscientist, and best-selling author whose latest book is guaranteed to give you a lift. Shift. How to manage your emotions so they don't manage you is out in a fortnight. So please welcome someone who's never angry, but always Ethan Kross.
All right, Ethan Kross with the K. Good morning, Ethan.
Well, this is now my favorite introduction of all time, so thank you very much.
Let's continue that vibe, shall we? No need to regulate this emotion, or is there? Maybe.
No, we're going to savor this one.
Yeah, come on. So much to talk to you about. I've made my notes from my copy of the book. The team made their notes. You've read it as well, Vas, haven't you? Mm-hmm. We love your last book, Chatter, worldwide bestseller. This is going to do the same. It has to. Where should we dive in? Do we dive in with baking bread? Do we dive in with Whoop, there it is? Do we dive in with Novak Djokovic? Take your pick. I don't really mind.
Well, let's dive in with what I think is one of the most important messages, which is when it comes to managing this emotional life of ours, that's something we all struggle with at times, and there are no one-size-fits-all solutions.
Yeah.
And that is a message that I hope people find liberating.
Yeah.
Because so often we hear you should do this, you should do that, and we know from both personal experience and the science that it's not that simple.
Yeah.
It's not one thing for every person. And given the complexity of our emotional lives, why would we ever expect it to be?
Yeah. Okay, let's pick up from there then, because in the book, it's all in the book. The baking's in the book. Whoop, there it is. We'll get to that. That's in the book.
Are you going to sing it, the lyrics for me?
Whoop, there it is. Whoop, there it is. No. And let's get into when positivity is bad and when anxiety is good.
Well, there's a strong, at least on my side of the pond, there's a strong push for maximizing positivity and minimizing negativity at all costs. And in fact, Chris, if you experience negative emotions at times, this is not so good. That's not actually true. We evolved the ability to experience negative emotions for a reason. When they're experienced in the right proportions, they're actually really helpful.
Yeah.
They provide us with information. That, I hope, is another really liberating message for people. Because if your goal is to live a life bereft of all negative emotions, that's a pretty hard goal to attain. So let me give you an example of when negative emotions can be helpful.
Please do.
And we'll talk about when they can't too. When I think back about the talks I've given that haven't really landed, there's a common theme. I experienced no anxiety before them. Zilch. So there was no cue inside me to say effectively, hey, Dopey, focus, practice. That's Dopey is what I call myself, right? I know, but we're being honest here.
Yeah.
So no cue to tell me to zoom in. Let's think about what lies ahead and actually prepare to the exclusion of other fun things I may want to do. That's anxiety at its finest. Now, of course, if we experience that emotion too intensely or for too long, we want to regulate. That's what the entire book is about. But in the right proportion, that can be useful. I'll give you one other example. Anger. It's not nice to be around people who are perpetually angry, and that's not what we're talking about here. But let's talk about an instance that may be familiar to any parent. And I'm a parent. If I see my daughters they're great, but sometimes they don't listen to mom and dad. And I see one of them ride their bike without a helmet. And that's not something you do in our family, right? That's dangerous. And so when I see that, I experience this little, it's almost like the software package gets loaded. I experience this response that tells me, okay, something has happened that challenges my view of the world, and there's something I can do to fix it.
Yeah.
So let me attend to the situation and convey to my daughter, this isn't appropriate. Now, I'm not shaking her or doing other wild things, but I'm communicating some consternation here. And that can be useful too, again, in the right proportions.
So we know the second bit, but it's the first bit, isn't it? It's the regulation of your own anger and then the communication of what you want to get across. Because if you're lucky enough to be able to zoom out just enough, and anything is enough or the beginning of enough, then you can stop that first trigger. And the mistake then that if you're not used to zooming out is that you've stopped the initial trigger, and so you think you're off the hook, but then actually there's still some other anger, some sort of vicarious anger, and you've checked yourself, but the other anger still comes out. So where do those checks and balances happen? What is the sort of process that from you feeling the anxiety, the anger, which is only love, isn't it? It's just love having a different moment.
That's right.
How do you then not transfer all that or, download it, poop it onto your kids?
Yeah. Well, it's okay to transmit a little bit. I want my daughter to know that I'm upset.
Yeah.
I don't want her to think I don't love her or anything like that. And that's where the regulation comes into play. That's where all of these different shifters I talk about in the book are relevant. You could shift your senses, your perspective, your attention, and so forth and so on. But you said one really important thing, and I just want to make sure we don't lose sight of it. You talked about the trigger. Some people wonder, can they actually control their emotions at all? I don't know about you, but I'm guessing you experience emotions throughout the day.
All the time.
And are you always in control of when they're triggered?
100% no. No,
Right.
100% no, but 100% no at some point in the day.
Yeah. This is a universal. I walk by someone smelly in the street, right? And it triggers a negative reaction, sometimes a very positive one. Sometimes I'm walking on the street and I have a ridiculously unsavory thought.
Yeah.
A thought that I wouldn't want to actually tell someone else about. Turns out that's also a near universal experience, and we don't know why those automatic reactions occur all the time, but we know they happen.
What's your best guess, by the way?
Well, there's the best guess, the best theory out there that I'm aware of is that some of the dark thoughts in particular, I'll give you an example of one that's both dark and somewhat comedic. When I'm in the gym, I'll be exercising, and at some point I'll have to take the exceptionally heavy dumbbell.
Of course.
Very heavy, just to emphasize that I'm lifting from one side of the room to put it away, and there'll inevitably be a very gentle-looking soul on a yoga mat in my way, and I'll have a thought. I'll actually visualize dropping the dumbbell on their face.
Yeah.
This is a terribly dark thought. Awful, awful, awful. Why am I having that thought? I assure you, I am not intending any harm. It's likely my brain's way of simulating a worst case scenario, i.e. me destroying this person's face, and then telling me, okay, squeeze the dumbbell a little tighter or put it in your other arm.
Yeah.
So there is likely a reason why sometimes we have these thoughts.
And you're also more vulnerable at that point because you've just exerted a lot of energy, and so you're a bit more fragile.
Excellent point that I had not considered, but this is true. You are a lay psychologist, my
friend.
Well,
no, what happens when we're running? When we're running at the beginning of a long run, you're happy, you're full of the joys of spring, say hello to everybody. I start in the high street, then I run off to the country, and then I'm in the hills. And 2/3 of the way, if somebody gets in your way and they're 500 yards of the way, they better get out of my way. An hour before, you're saying hello to everybody, and so, hey, how you doing? You just run out of road.
Yes,
you
yes,
literally run out of road.
That's right. So there's lots of good reasons why this might happen.
Yeah.
We don't have control over that, but what we do have amazing control over is the trajectory of those responses. Yes. We can push them up or down, make them longer or shorter, and we're doing it all the time, I would argue, often without really thinking about it. So sometimes we're actually making ourselves feel worse. We're leaning into it.
Yeah.
And sometimes we're doing things that can make ourselves feel better. What I hope this book helps people do is use science to understand how to push those emotional experiences
and
around.
that you can.
That you can.
This book is just screaming out of it for you can.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of people just won't accept that. And the second you accept that you can, the second you accept that football exists, you might watch a game. If you deny that football exists, you're never going to go to the football party.
Absolutely. I mean, this is hitting the nail on the head, because if you don't think you could do something, why on earth would you ever try?
Yeah.
Right? But you can do something.
And
you can do a lot.
everybody wants to regulate their emotions because it's so useful. You're a kinder person, you're a more successful person, you sleep better at night, all these kind of things. There's so much in this book. Talking to Ethan Kross about this amazing book, Shift, How to Manage Your Emotions So They Don't Manage You. I couldn't put it down yesterday. Let's just dive in, parachuting on a few sort of super hacks, some themes that then people can buy the book and get further into. You just talked about yourself. You just referred to yourself as Dopey. That is distant self-talk.
Yeah.
You talk about Novak Djokovic. He doesn't call himself Dopey, but he doesn't say I. He says you. Come on, you got this. That is psychological and verbal zooming out, and it all helps, doesn't it?
That's right. We're much better at giving advice to other people than we are to ourselves.
Right.
I think do as I say, not as I do.
So turn yourself into another person.
That's right. And so a simple way to do it is with language. Refer to yourself with your name, Dopey, use the word you, whatever it is, do it internally. Just don't do it out loud.
Can I steal Dopey from you?
Take Dopey.
I love Dopey.
You know another one, another good one? Marvin.
Marvin.
No offense to the Marvins out there, but a good friend of mine refers to his nasty inner voice sometimes as Marvin.
See, Marvin sounds too likable.
Yeah, Dopey's kind of nice because there's a playfulness to it.
And we've all been Dopey.
Yeah.
It's okay to be Dopey. Let's just go to Whoop. There it is. Come on, let's get that in there.
So Whoop, there it is. We often, especially around New Year's, we say we're gonna change all these things about our lives. We're gonna be more in control, less anxiety, less anger. But we falter, and there are lots of reasons why. Whoop is a technology that anyone can use to make emotion regulation automatic, and it's an acronym. Here's what you do: the W, it's your wish. What do you want to accomplish? The first O, that's the outcome. If you accomplish this wish, what would happen? So what we're trying to do there is energize people so they're getting really motivated to pursue this goal. But let's be realistic. That takes us to the second O. What are the obstacles? What are the obstacles, the landmines that might stand in the way from you achieving this goal? Which brings us to the big P, the plan.
Yeah.
It's not just any plan. It's an if-then plan. If this obstacle occurs, then I'm going to use this tool. And you rehearse that out a few times. And what that does is, I think, magical in the following sense. Oftentimes when we are triggered, we don't know what to do. And we're just kind of stumbling around looking for solutions. But when you have these if-then plans, the moment you're triggered, you don't have to think about what to do, what strategies to use, because you've already gamed it out and you just implement it.
Yeah.
This is actually, interestingly enough, the same thing that the Navy SEALs do to prepare before difficult missions.
Okay, that was gonna be my next question. There's many heroes in the book. Two particular standout heroes are your granny, and the SEAL superhero who seems to be the sort of the Wizard of Oz of mastering or regulating one's emotions. Give us a few headlines on both, however you like.
So, the Wizard of Oz of mastering emotions, Matt Mosdom, he's actually a neighbor of mine. Go figure. And this is a remarkable guy. Navy SEAL instructor, Harvard leadership degree, and then carried the nuclear codes for Obama.
And a what-if genius.
And absolutely. So before every mission, what he told me they do in planning is, he and his fellow SEALs, they sit around and they game out. If this happens, then what are we going to do? And they come up with a series of those if-then plans for every obstacle, and then they go around Socratic style to make sure that they all understand what the parameters are. This is one of the most successful elite organizations on the planet. The idea is the science supports what they're doing, and there's insights there that we can apply to our own lives. That then shifts to Granny. I called her Bubby. Yeah. And this was a remarkable woman who, with my grandfather, evaded the Nazis in Poland for several years when during World War II. And she's my superhero for two reasons. Number one, I always found it amazing. So she ended up surviving the Holocaust after seeing her family slaughtered, moved to the States, had a wonderful life. She never really talked about the war very much. She would do it like once a year. She dosed it. And her experience has taught me, along with lots of supportive evidence, I've got to say that. Sorry, guys, I'm a scientist.
We want it. We want
always want to corroborate the personal experiences with
and
data.
By the way, this is all backed by science, this book.
All science-based. We often think that avoidance is uniformly toxic. In fact, being strategic about how we avoid emotional obstacles in our life can actually be useful. This has honestly helped my marriage. And I'll give you an example. Sometimes when my wife, it does happen, gets upset at me.
No way.
It's shocking, right?
Never happened to me.
Me neither.
Yeah,
God,
you guys,
she's an unlucky guy.
It must be a
Ethan, what are you doing wrong?
One in a million.
It must be an American thing here. But when she gets mad, I immediately fess up. I don't deny. I take the blame, and I just want to fix it right then and there.
Yeah.
But what I've learned is that sometimes my wife, she needs just a little bit of time, sometimes more than a little bit of time, but she needs some time to settle down. And the best thing I can do is listen to Bubby there and just not broach the topic for like a day. Just avoid it. Get away. And then when I come back, it's wonderful. So avoidance in small doses can be useful. The other way she's really, really helped me, she is my ultimate distancer. She helps me zoom out. Sometimes, I get triggered like the best of us. I get the email, the difficult conversation, you name it. And when that happens, I'll often jump into my mental time travel machine, and I'll go back. And my stop is the late 30s, I guess, with Bubby, and I hang out with her and Papa in the woods, and we scramble away from the Nazis. And then I come back to my present moment, and I think to myself, Dopey,
we're
what
fine here.
the hell are you worried about here? Like, things could be a lot worse. And that, too, I want to just highlight one thing I'm doing there. I'm blending tools there.
You're flexing, aren't you?
Yeah, I am.
You talk about flexing, don't you?
I am flexing there in the sense, well, depends on what you mean by flex. Tell me.
You have a bit called Flex It in the book.
Oh, flex the tool. Yeah, flex it. So what I'm doing there is I'm combining mental time travel with distance self-talk. It's a lot like going to the gym when it comes to our emotional lives and being emotionally fit. You said you run. Do you ever go to the gym?
Yeah.
Okay, when you go to the gym, I'm going to guess, and this is not because I'm looking at you, but I'm going to guess you just, the only thing you do is, you don't just curl a bicep. You do some other things too, right? No one would go to the gym and just do one exercise over and over.
Battle rope Barry has a go at that, don't you? He just battle ropes.
You battle ropes is, what is battle ropes?
Right.
You just do that.
They're things that take up the whole of the gym and nobody else can do whatever they want to do.
I see. Yeah, that looks like the medieval torture device where you're just...
That's what he considers.
Get out
of my gym. This is my gym.
We do different things, though, in general. And different people do different things. And that's true. We just did this massive study about how people manage their COVID anxiety. Most people use about 3 or 4 tools each day, not just one thing.
Yeah, of course. You talk about the environment. Your environment is so important. We talk about that all the time, don't we? So the people you hang out with and the environment you hang out in, whether it's your car or work, your space and your place.
So there are tools. They're like Easter eggs. Are you familiar with the Easter egg concept?
No.
I wasn't. I hope I'm getting this right. In video games, I believe there are these hidden prizes, and if you know where to find them, it's this gift. The environment provides us with those Easter eggs for our emotional lives, and it can help us in a few ways. Number one, we don't just attach to people that are sources of safety and security. There are places that we positively attach to, and when we find ourselves in them, we feel a whole lot better. What's your place? What's your happy place, so to speak?
Well, everywhere now, because I've thought about things. So in my running shoes, because they're an environment, in the studio with him, unbelievably, to some listeners, and hopefully vice versa, in my car, in my bedroom is a very peaceful, very minimalist place. So every pillar of importance as far as the space and place in my life is concerned. I try to make as so I can't avoid things that are good for me.
So, I mean, and that's great. You are being strategic there with how you interact with your environment. You're putting yourself in places that are sources of positivity. Once you're in a place, you can architect it. You can design it to serve you rather than to undermine your emotional life. 2 simple ways to do it. Get rid of the triggers that might push you in the negative directions, right? So for me, I tell the pizza story in the book. Pizza for me, I mean, it's like what is it, the desert island food?
Yeah.
That's what I want before I die. I will eat pizza in any shape or form or temperature. Yeah. But if I eat too much of it, this is not good for other things like heart health or how I feel about myself when I put my jeans on. Yeah. So I will remove pizza from the house. Yeah. Right? If we buy too much, there I'm trying to eliminate a unhealthy trigger for me, a trigger that is going to impact me emotionally in a way I don't want. Yeah. But you can also then put things in your environment. We pictures of loved ones. Yeah. There's research which shows that just glancing at images of people who care about you after you've experienced something bad helps you recover more quickly.
Yeah, well, again, running, if you see somebody in the crowd that you know in the middle of a marathon, the next mile is free, isn't it, Vas?
Absolutely, 100%. What I love is the stories that you tell, because, you know, I understand things through stories. And that story at the end about the text message you get, the very triggering text message, anyone who's a parent would getting that text message, my daughter's school is closed because of a credible threat to the pupils of that school. And then you needed pretty much all of your regulation,
and you're
emotional
the guy.
You know, but you would do, wouldn't you, in that situation? Do you want to just talk to that for a moment?
Yeah. Well, to be clear, I'm not the guy who issued the threat. But yeah, this was a terribly chilling moment, and you know, in my experience, all rationality goes out the door when your kids are involved. You know, when it's your kids, you just get so worked up because there's nothing more important than your kids. Yeah. Wife is in the same category. Love you, sweetie. But what I was able to do in this circumstance, the trigger occurred. I got immediately anxious when I saw this text message and I learned what was going on. But then I had tools that I immediately implemented. So I knew not to engage endlessly in the co-rumination rants that were happening with other parents because they were only going to work me up. Yeah. I immediately went for a walk in the Arboretum because I know that has a calming, restorative effect on how I feel. I spoke to my board of emotional advisors. These are people in my life. They're not professionally trained, but they do know how to have conversations about difficult things that validate what someone's experiencing, but also help you put it in perspective. And there were a couple of other things I did there too. Dopey came out a little bit, mental time travel. And it all helped me manage how I felt that day to the point where I was able to do my work and you know, get work done, which is not the case for everyone who is in that situation.
And once you've seen and felt the space of distance from the zooming out of a reaction as opposed to a response, you can't unsee it. And it's just being able to smell that for the first time, isn't it? That's the thing.
It's now so habitual for me to distance through either self-talk or mental time travel. I mean, another quick one is, how am I going to feel about this tomorrow, next week, next month, next year? You lose sight of the fact that we're experiencing triggers every day throughout the day, and this has happened to you since the moment you were born, probably before you were born too, actually, in the womb, right? And guess what? Almost all of them have come, but then subsided with time. Yeah. We don't have access to that information in the heat of the moment, but you can get it. Yeah. So now it's just second nature. People ask me, hey, has your ability to manage your emotions improved since you started doing research in this space? And my answer to that is a definitive yes, with a caveat. If you were to look at a graph of my improvement, it would look a lot like the American stock market, right?
Zigzag,
so
zigzag.
It's a sharp linear increase. At the beginning, there was a bit of a learning curve, but it's going way up. It's positive and linear. But there are still some
steps.
There's steps, there are undulations. Sometimes I have a major win, and then I have a little, I kind of regress a little bit. But it's always upward sloping.
Yeah.
And that is something I think that I'm enormously grateful for.
Yeah, no, I get it. It's a wonderful book. It's another wonderful book from Ethan Kross. This one is called Shift, How to Manage Your Emotions So They Don't Manage You. So we know that it's difficult for people to latch onto one or two or three things to take with them. They might think that in the moment. I do when I'm listening to podcasts and things. Can you just give us one thing in a minute, one thing for people to help people with their emotions today? One thing going forward.
I'm going to give you the easiest tool in the book.
Please do.
Which is music. So 100% of people, why do you listen to music? I like the way it makes me feel. If you then go and ask people, hey, the last time you were anxious, angry, depressed, what'd you do to feel better? Only between 10 and 30% avail themselves of that tool. Music is like a little jolt that can push you in your desired direction. So think carefully. What are the songs that push you up, that bring you down? And then mark those. Have 3 or 4 in different playlists and use them strategically.
Yeah, and you talk about your 5 senses, don't you, as well? Yeah. And it's different, the effectiveness, the efficacy of different senses on different people's regulation of emotions. You say, for you, it's what? It's taste and sound.
Taste and sound. It's Journey, Don't Stop Believing, and it's my chocolate peanut butter cups.
Don't stop believing, but you might want to stop eating.
That's right. Yeah, I should stop eating.
Yeah.
But it's those two and different blends for different people.
Yeah.
That's not going to solve the mental health problems we're experiencing today, but it's a step to help push us in a direction to implement other tools.
What about you, Vass? What would you say if you had to name your top 2 senses for helping you regulate your emotions?
Touch is good.
Yeah?
Touch is good. Just going up and down my fingers with my thumb.
That's not where I thought you were going with touch.
I'm going to go, I like sight. I love things. I'm aesthetically overwhelmed sometimes. Music, I think, is so effective on me. I have to listen to it. I can't listen to it as much as I want to because it really does it helps me transcend.
Yeah.
Too much sometimes.
Yeah. This is where you need to get into the emotional fitness gym and start figuring out what are the unique combinations of tools that work best for you.
Yeah.
How much do you want to lift this one kind of weight and so forth and so on.
Well,
that is exactly the challenge for everyone.
Thank you for using us as your waypoint, your stopover. This is a one night in London, Ethan Kross, and now you're off to Switzerland, I understand.
That's right.
Okay, safe home. I hope everything's well when you get back home for all the reasons, because I know you're from Los Angeles.
Thank you so much.
So thank you. You're amazing.
Thanks so much.
Virgin Radio.